This video has been a long time coming. Before I start, I just want to say that this is all information I have found on the internet and I pieced it all together into one video. Also, a trigger warning for this video, I will be talking about sexual abuse, so please take care of yourself if that's a hard topic for you. This video is not meant to accuse, but only to inform the public of what has been in front of us for years now. Rob Fusari is a record producer from New Jersey who had a couple of hit songs in the 90s and early 2000s. He was 38 when he met Lady Gaga, then still going by her real name, Stephanie Germanotta. Only, things weren't what they seemed while they were working together. In fact, I believe this man did horrible things to her. Lady Gaga and Rob Fusari met March 23, 2006, at the Cutting Room in New York when Lady Gaga was still 19 years old. They started working together with their shared company, Team LoveChild, May 2006 to around January 2007. Gaga was then signed and then dropped from Def Jam Records, September 2006 to December 2006. She was already 20 by the time she was signed. There have been quite a few interviews over the years where Lady Gaga has tried to tell us her story bit by bit. Here are some quotes from those interviews. In 2013, on The Howard Stern Show, she says she's fed up with being used by men in the industry. She says it happens every day and it's manipulative and not straightforward. She has had substance abuse problems since she first came into the industry because there are things that she went through that she could not and did not have time to recover from as she became a star soon afterwards. In this interview, she also says that it's definitely not L.A. Reid, so it's most likely not anyone from Def Jam Records, as I also said earlier, she was already 20 by the time she was signed with them. In another interview with Howard Stern in 2014, Lady Gaga states that Red One was the first producer not to take advantage of her. She felt comfortable making music with him without fearing he'd put his hand up her skirt. She also says that it's quite obvious to figure out if you look at the history of who she's worked with. Later on in this interview, Gaga says that she went through horrific things and was a shell of her former self at one point. She points out the weird accent in interviews that was definitely something I noticed at the time, being a fan of her for so long. Howard asks her about an incident where Gaga was under controversy for having an artist throw up paint on her during a concert. She talks about the song Swine and how it was written about her rape, and how she had this vision of her singing it while riding a mechanical bull and being thrown up on, to show that no one can be more degrading to her than herself. She said it didn't affect her as much right after it happened as it did about 4 to 5 years later. Quoting, "I was so traumatized by it that I was like, just keep going, 'cause I had to get out of there." She also said that she did not come out about it before because she did not want to be defined by it, and says that she wanted to be known as the sole person who made her pain beautiful. She saw him once in a store and was paralyzed by fear, and she didn't even realize until she was a little bit older that the situation was so messed up. A lot of victims find it too difficult to register their trauma until much later after it happens. Gaga says it's someone who publicly and falsely claims that they dated. "I gotta wake up and it's, oh, my ex-girlfriend. Oh, we were dating?" she says. "You were 20 years older than me. I was a kid. How is that a date?" There's a ton of debate on whether Fusari and Gaga actually dated or not online, so this is definitely a hint. In Oprah's Vision 2020 tour, Gaga says she was raped repeatedly when she was 19 years old, and she all of a sudden became a star instead of being able to process the trauma. She then a few years later developed a pain in her body that mimicked the pain that she felt after she was raped. Every time she felt pain, that was the way her body would respond after that. She said she had a psychotic break after a court deposition, and her body completely shut down. I believe this is referring to the lawsuits in 2010 between her and Fusari, because that's also around the time the Monster Ball tour was canceled. Because of her hip problem, that we now know was her fibromyalgia/trauma response. She said she was on tour dancing for weeks during this time until she just couldn't handle it anymore and she broke. She also said that she thought she was going to die at that point. She told Oprah that people knew about what was going on at the time and no one wanted to help her put her abuser in jail where he belongs. In the Apple TV series The Me You Can't See that premiered May 21st, 2021, Lady Gaga talks more about her experience in the music industry. She says that when she was 19 years old, a music producer said to her, "Take your clothes off." And she said no, to which their response was that they were going to burn all of her music. She also mentions that he locked her away in a studio for months. She does not want to name her abuser herself. But we already know, babe. We've known for years. And you've given us just enough hints to help us figure it out. Lady Gaga and Rob Fusari had a couple of lawsuits between each other back in 2010 and again in 2014. Long story short, he was suing her because he thought he deserved more of the royalties from their early work together. But looking through those documents shows some pretty damning evidence against Fusari. Page 11 of court documents from one of the lawsuits say Fusari did not deny that he threatened to burn Lady Gaga's music if she didn't do what he said. This definitely relates back to the Me You Can't See, where she said her abuser threatened to burn all of her music. The second lawsuit was a retrial, and the reason for the retrial? Fusari claimed that he could not receive a fair trial in that court because when Gaga testified against him on the first court appearance, she made allegations against him that he said made the trial unfair because of how it made him look to the jury. Here are screenshots from the court documents. Some words are unfortunately blanked out, but as Gaga says, it doesn't take a lot of rocket science to figure it out. As I said earlier, Lady Gaga and Rob Fusari had a company together called Team LoveChild, and they actually wrote a lot of songs together, but most of them remain unreleased. Why are there so many? But they were mostly unreleased. Maybe because she was locked in the studio and could do nothing else but write songs? If you look at some of the song titles, they're kind of repetitive in some places. Like maybe she was losing inspiration being locked away from everything and everyone she loved. At the time he was working with Gaga, Fusari was actually running a studio in his home in Parsippany, New Jersey. In his home, where he could have easily locked someone away for months at a time, pretending that they were just dating and she was staying over instead of being forced to be there and write song after song. The last thing I want to point out, and probably the most damning evidence of all if it proves to be true, is that Fusari may be trying to lie about his age publicly. Wikipedia history shows that the early life section of the Wikipedia page was edited in May of 2021 from a mobile device. May of 2021 is also exactly when the Me You Can't See premiered on Apple TV, and Gaga shared her story. Interesting. But if he was 38 when they were allegedly dating in 2006, according to this article by Daily Mail UK, wouldn't that make his birthday 1967 or 1968? There's also a Billboard article from 2010 stating that he was 41 at the time of the interviewing. I see you, dude. Not only could Rob Fusari be responsible for all of this inhumane torture done to poor Lady Gaga, but he also might be involved in one of the biggest mysteries on the internet. But I think that's another video. Like and subscribe if you want to hear more, and follow me on Twitter if you want. Links are also in the description for sources I used for this video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching.